Hi, everybody. Welcome to In the Pocket Speaks. This is a place where we unfold the scriptures of the Bible one verse at a time. Now, our foundation scripture is found in Matthew 4:4 in the Amplified, and part B reads, "A man, or rather man, shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of God." Well, I'm Janice Strickland, your host, and I'll be bringing to you each week our thought for the week and the scripture that we're going to be unfolding. But before we get to that, I want to tell you a little more about In the Pocket Speaks. Now, In the Pocket Speaks, as we said before, is another segment of Pockets of Truth. Now, when we talk about in the pocket, we're actually talking about in the Bible. This is the place where God is speaking to us. So each week, we're going to take a look in the pocket or in the Bible and see what portion he is speaking to us for this week. Now, the Bible also says in Ephesians 3:10 that there is the manifold wisdom of God, which means the many-folded or many-faceted wisdom of God. So each week, we're going to unfold a verse of scripture. And with that, let's get to it. Now, our thought for the week is, believe that he is or not. Let me say it again. Believe that he is or not. And the scripture we're going to be unfolding is Hebrews 11:6. That's Hebrews 11:6, and it reads, "But without faith it is impossible to please God. For he that comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." Now, in the Amplified, when it talks about the part where without faith it is impossible to please God, that also means impossible to walk with God. Now, let's begin with unfolding this verse. The first thing it says is, "But without faith it is impossible to please him." Now, that means that if we do not have faith, we can't please, not only can we not please God, we can't walk with God. Now, we often quote the definition of faith that's found in Hebrews 11:1, that's Hebrews 11:1, and it simply says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Now, you might be saying, now, Miss Janice, what does that mean? That simply means that we believe, it simply means to believe that something we want exists before we can see it with or perceive it with our five senses. That means to believe that whatever God says really is true. Now, the part of that definition that deals with the believing is a little more complicated, because when we believe, it comes from our belief system. Now, the belief system is something we develop personally over the course of our lives. It is a culmination of our life experiences and our choices. It is the things that we allow in our hearts. That's why God tells us, one of the first instructions when we come to him is that we study to show ourselves approved unto God, a workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Then he says in another place, "Meditate on my word day and night, and that thou should make thy way prosperous, and that thou should have good success." So he wants us to study his word, to get it into our heart so that we can begin to know him. Because how can we trust or believe someone we don't know? Think about it now. Just think about it in our everyday lives. Who do we trust the most? The people we just met and don't know nothing about yet? Or is it those people that we have known for years and have proven themselves to be friends with us? Well, Amos tells us in 3:3, that's Amos 3:3, it says, "How can two walk together except they agree?" Now, I can't agree with you if I don't know what you like and if you don't know what I like. And in most relationships, we're always talking about what the other person brings to the table, or what everybody's bringing to the table. Now, are they for real? For real? Do we actually know those people for real? For real? Do we actually know what their likes and their dislikes are? Who are they? These people that we're spending time with, these people that we know, the way we get to know them is we spend time with them and we ask them questions. So the question is, when do we actually take time to ask God what he likes? And then wait for him to give us an answer. We say we know God. But do we really? Now we have key thing we have to keep in mind is faith only happens at relationship level. Let me say it again. Faith only happens at relationship level. It does not happen when we're just doing a date here and there. Just like in your irregular relationships with your spouses or your significant others. Nothing really happens until you come into a relationship. You never get to that place of trust until you actually enter into the relationship. Now, the verse, or our verse that we're unfolding today, it goes on to say this: for he that comes to God. Now, notice it said comes to God. In one translation, it says cometh, meaning to approach God over and over again. Now, if we spend all of our time in our intellect trying to figure out things for ourselves, when do we actually come to God? Well, allow me to help us with that little part, with our little smart selves. Let me give you a statement. I want you to always remember, every time you think that you're really smart, or you're really brilliant, or every time we try to get in our heads that we got this, I want us to think of this one little statement. And the statement is, there is nothing that we have that we did not receive. There is nothing that we have that we did not receive. Y'all know what that means? That means that high IQ that we got. Are all those wonderful ideas that made us all of that money. Are all of those things that we feel like we got going on. Those things were downloaded to us by God. Those things came to us from the Father. And guess what? Just like he gave them to us, they can be removed in a second. Now let me tell you, there's actually a example of this in the scripture. If you go with me to Daniel 4:24-34, that's Daniel 4:28-34, I'm going to kind of paraphrase some of it, then I'm going to give you some key parts of it. We're talking about this king that God put in place. His name was King Nebuchadnezzar. And King Nebuchadnezzar, God had blessed him so and had positioned him that he started to, start feeling himself, like he was the man. And then he messed around. Now he was king of Babylon. And then he messed around and made this statement, y'all. And this is in Daniel 4:30. He said, and the king spake and said, is not this great Babylon that I built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? So the dude started taking all the props for this kingdom, this great kingdom that God had rose up. And then this is what happened when he decided that he was going to take the glory for these things. It says in verse 31, this is Daniel 4:31, it says, while the word was in the king's mouth, means while he was using them it says, there fell a voice from heaven saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee, and they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High rules the kingdom of men and gives it to whomever he will. And in verse 33 says, the same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar. And he was driven from men, and did eat grass as an oxen, and his body was wet with dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like birds' claws. And at the end of the days, and this is when God let him do this for 7 years, y'all. He thought he was the one. He was depending on saying that I am the one that did this. I thought of this. Well, it says, at the end of the days of I, Nebuchadnezzar, lift up mine eyes unto heaven, and my understanding returned unto me. And I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that lives forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. So after God let him be out there like the animal in the yard for 7 years, he came to himself. And when he came to himself, he began to honor God. So all these things that we think we gave ourselves, that we think we did for ourselves, we better be mindful, because the scripture said, I am God and I change not. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever, and he is not going to allow any of us to take any of his glory. Now let's move a little further in that verse. The next part, the verse says, must believe. Now, the must believe here has to do with our belief system, or rather it brings our belief system back into play. In other words, I have to know God well enough to trust him. To trust that I can come to him with the things that are good and the things that appear to be bad. Just like in our everyday lives, when things happen and we're open, when good things are happening, we're open to a lot of people. You know, we're talking about how great things are. But when bad things happen, they're just a select few that we let in. Now, these are people we trust will not hurt us. People we believe that will stand with us and walk us through a thing. Now, obviously, many of us do not trust God like that. Because, think about it now. What is the first thing we do when stuff happens? Are we running to God? Are we running to other people? Are we making God the last resort? Now we say he's our God, and we say we belong to him. Then what's the problem? Well, the problem is found in the next part of this verse where it says that he is. The scripture says, and they believe, we must believe that he is. Now the key here is, when it says he is, the is does not mean that we only believe or are just believing that he exists. We're not just talking about the fact that he exists. As a matter of fact, the scripture tells us that's not even a big deal. If you go to James 2:19, that's James 2:19, it says, thou believes that there is one God. Thou do well. The devils also believe and tremble. So now, y'all, the devil believe there's one God. So we ain't doing nothing special when we said that, okay? And they believe it even more so than us, because they got sense enough to at least be scared. You know, some of us have lost the fear of the Lord, the reverential fear of God. But we must believe that he is. Now, that he is also means that he is everything that we need, everything that we want, or can even imagine in our lives. He is the I am that Moses spoke of in Exodus 3:13 through 14. That's Exodus 3:13 through 14. And this is the I am that Moses spoke about. And it says, and Moses said unto God, behold, when I come into the children of Israel and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers has sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, What is his name? What shall I say unto them? And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, Thou shalt say unto them, unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you. Now that I am means, y'all, that we have to actually believe that God is at least four things. Now, you know, he's a multiplicity of things, but we got to specifically believe that he's these four things. First of all, that he's omnipotent. That means he's all powerful. The scripture says the power belongs to God. Then we must believe that he's omniscient. That means he's all knowing. That means he knew before we knew that we thought we knew. Okay? And that he's omnipresent. Meaning that he's everywhere at the same time. For he said his eyes are in every place, beholding both the good and the evil. And then we have to believe that God is for us. Now, Romans 8:31-32 says this. What shall we then say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? He that spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Now, let's be truthful with ourselves, y'all, because you know the truth makes us free. If we really believe that God is all of these things, then why are we in fear when things start to happen or when we get a bad report? Why are we anxious? Why are we worried about stuff? Why are we stressing out if we really believe now? We're talking about he that cometh to God must believe that he is. And that he is a rewarder. The next part of that verse says, and that he is a rewarder. Now, a rewarder is one who gives a gift in recognition of one's service or one's efforts or achievement. What that's telling us is we have to do something. Now, this doing something is illustrated in James 2:14-17. That's James 2:14-17. And it says, For what is the benefit, my fellow believers, if someone claims to have faith, but has no good works as evidence? Can that kind of faith save him? No. A mere claim of faith is not sufficient. Genuine faith produces good works. If a brother or sister is without adequate clothing and lacks enough food for each day, and one of you says to them, Go in peace with my blessing, keep warm and feed yourselves, but he does not give them the necessities for the body, what good does that do? So too, faith, if it does not have works to back it up, it is by itself inoperative and ineffective. In other words, faith without works is dead. Now, most of us are real good with the works, okay? We'll do stuff. But we often forget that to God, the motive behind what we are doing is just as important as what we do. Now, we talked about this in other teachings, in another session. But we got to always remember 1 Corinthians 13:3. If I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, then it does me no good at all. So the question is, why am I doing what I'm doing? And we've asked this question before. We want to keep it before you. Are we looking to score points with God? Or do we really love those people? Excuse me. The other proof of our faith is that we meet the criteria for the reward. And that brings us to the last part of our verse for today. And the criteria is, it says, he is a rewarder of them that what? Diligently seek him. Now notice it did not just say seek him. He used the word diligently. Now diligently means in a way that shows care, consciousness in one's work or in one's duties. It means that the individual is intentional. Then they use the word seek. It doesn't mean to just merely look for a thing. To seek a thing or to seek someone means to pursue, to hunt for, to search for, to search out, to chase down. It is a focused quest. Y'all, seeking God is so important that in Matthew 5:6, that's Matthew 5:6 in the Amplified, it says it like this: blessed, joyful, nourished by God's goodness are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, those who actively seek right standing with God, for they shall be completely satisfied. Now, y'all, it goes beyond. If you're hungering and thirsting after something, that's a little different than a casual inquiring of something. That's more than just a couple of classes here and there. That's more than just a little weekly devotional. It talks about us being in hot pursuit, because the scripture says God would that we be hot or cold. He said if we lukewarm, he'll throw us up, basically. So we need to be in hot pursuit. And then the very last thing it says, it used the two words, seek him. Not seek his hand. Not what he can give us. You know, we got this thing about, oh God, I need this. Oh God, would you give me this? Oh God, would you do this? Da, 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 da. Oh God, oh where you got? God is not our cash cow, people. He is not our run to when stuff crazy. How? Now let's think about this on a regular level. How do we feel? How do you feel about people who only call you when they want something from you? Who only ring you up? They only hit you up when they want something. How do you feel about those people? Who rarely call to just say, how you doing? You feeling all right today? Everything okay with you? Just call to see about you. Don't want nothing else. I just want to see about you. Y'all, do y'all know we treat God like that? We have a tendency, sometimes without realizing it, we have made him so common that we forget that he's God and that he created us, and that that scripture says that all things were created by him, for him, that we were created for his pleasure. So in essence, Hebrews, the 11th chapter, that says, and we says that the complete verse says that, but without faith, it is impossible to please God. But he who comes to God must first believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Now, in essence, this scripture means this: in order to truly walk with God here on earth, we must first want to know him bad enough to pursue him before anything or anyone else. Second, we must focus on knowing him, not just knowing about him. Third, we must know him enough to believe that he is, and to know that he rewards us for knowing him. And then I want you to keep this thought in the back of your mind as you're pursuing God. If we don't choose to know him here, then what makes us think that he's going to be interested in getting to know us when we leave here? Let me say it again. If we don't choose to get to know him here, then what makes us think that he's going to be interested in getting to know us when we leave here? Y'all, I'm not sure if God is letting strangers in heaven. And with that, allow me to end the way I began, and that's with our thought for the week. And the thought for the week is, believe that he is or not. And to personalize that thing, I want you to look at it like this. Ask yourself the question, do I really believe that he is? Let me say it again. Ask yourself the question. And I want you to sit sometime in Salah. Pause. Do I really believe that he is? Well, that's it. Now remember, today's In the Pocket Speaks is brought to you by Pockets of Truth, Inc., which is our 501c3 nonprofit. And we would love for you to check us out at pocketsoftruth.com. That's pocketsoftruth.com. And if you missed any of the teachings, you can find them on our website, but you can also find them on our YouTube channel, which is at Pockets of Truth 1366. That's at Pockets of Truth 1366. And until next time, remember, a verse is never just a verse. Love y'all. Bye now.